Location: courtroom, tense atmosphere. John OC Woogum is on the witness stand. The defense attorney paces in front of him, looking for a slip. The judge looks on with growing impatience. Coordinates on screen: latitude 18.019487, longitude -76.829102. In Kingston, Jamaica, an elite police unit was tasked with solving one of the most heinous murders in recent memory. Leading the investigation was John OC Woogum, a man known for his sharp instincts and relentless pursuit of justice. But today, Woogum faces not a murder, but a defense attorney tearing apart his case.
Detective Woogum, I have one simple question for you. Did you or did you not read my client his meridian rights upon his arrest?
I read him right. I followed the necessary steps. My priority was securing the suspect.
Securing the suspect, yes or no, detective? Did you read him his meridian rights?
I did. He's saying I didn't, but I did regardless of things escalated quickly. The court did not believe the detective alibi.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let the record show that John OC Woogum, the lead investigator, failed to follow protocol from the moment this investigation began.
Inspector Hamo, Woogum's right-hand man, handled most of the evidence at the crime scene. Alongside him were Corporal Rose, in charge of forensics, and Constable Grant, handling crowd control. Everyone followed protocol, at least so they thought, but higher up the chain, things were not as they seemed. The DNA samples, which could have sealed the case, were tampered with unknowingly to Woogum or Hamo by their superiors. Superintendent Green, Inspector Blake, and Sergeant Jones had their own motives. When Woogum and his team finally realized the truth, it was already too late.
Detective, isn't it true that your DNA evidence, the linchpin of your case, was compromised?
We didn't know it had been tampered with until later.
Until later? You mean after you'd already built your entire case around faulty evidence?
We had no reason to suspect it was compromised at the time.
So not only did you fail to read my client his rights, but you also relied on evidence that was mishandled by your own team? No, sir, his right was read.
It wasn't mishandled by my team. The evidence was tampered with by higher ranks without our knowledge.
Convenient. Blame it on the people above you.
They're tearing us apart in there. We had no idea the DNA was messed with.
We did everything by the book. This is out of our hands.
Woogum's team had done everything by the book, at least as far as they knew. The real problem lay with those pulling strings behind the scenes. By the time Woogum and his team learned the truth, the evidence had already been corrupted beyond repair.
I got a tip. They messed with the DNA. Hemo, we're walking into a disaster.
Superintendent Green and the others, why would they?
Don't know, but it's too late now. The whole case is falling apart.
With the DNA evidence deemed inadmissible, and Woogum's failure to read the accused his rights, the case was collapsing before their eyes. The accused walked free, a murderer, released due to a broken investigation, mishandled evidence, and a system that failed both the victim and the officers who tried to seek justice. As Woogum and Hemo left the courthouse, the community's outrage spilled over. A righteous crowd, enraged by the collapse of the case and the release of a murderer, surrounded the vehicle they were traveling in. The protesters were determined and vocal, demanding justice and showing no signs of backing down. The police were preparing for action, with the riot squad on their way to control the situation. The crowd was ready to inflict grievous bodily harm driven by the miscarriage of justice. The situation reached a boiling point, and it seemed Woogum and Hemo would pay for the system's failure. The riot squad, well trained and swift to act, deployed their crowd control measures. Tear gas, shields, and firm tactical moves were enough to disperse the furious mob. The situation was deviated, but the tension in the air remained thick. Once again, the law had protected them, but justice had failed the people. For Woogum, it was another reminder of the dangerous consequences of a broken system. Injustice thrives where corruption and incompetence intersect. For John OC Woogum, this case was a bitter reminder that even the smallest oversight can tip the scales in favor of a murderer. The system had failed him, and it nearly cost him his life. But next time, Woogum wouldn't be so trusting. Next time, he'd be ready. This case wasn't just a failure of evidence, it was a failure of procedure and trust. Woogum's oversight in reading the Meridian rights, combined with the corruption of his superiors, created a perfect storm. The aftermath was even more dangerous as the community sought their own form of justice. In law enforcement, there's no room for error, and those in power must be held accountable. Without that, justice will remain elusive.